Right. Welcome everybody to KWA Author Spotlight. My name is Brae Wyckoff. I'm the director of Kingdom Writers Association, and today we have the amazing author, first-time author, Michele Moseley, who just wrote and released her young adult epic fantasy called Darcara. And Michele, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
So tell us a little bit about Darkara, and then as we go through this interview, I have got several questions to blast you with, and I'm excited to interview you and to spotlight what God has just created and birthed out of you with this amazing book called Darkara. So tell us a little bit about Darkara.
All right. Well, Darkara is about a world where, kind of a medieval fantasy world where your military prowess determines your social class. So if you were placed in the military for training when you were young, then you're in. And if you weren't, then, too bad for you.
You're out.
So yeah, exactly. So my main character, Anya, she grew up in this world and she is in the military and she's done very well and gotten some very prestigious roles in that. But at the same time, she can communicate with and receives visions from these sort of spirit type dragon creatures
Yeah.
that used to be kind of the ones in charge, giving people wisdom and showing them what to do. And now, things are obviously very different. So she has kind of these two very conflicting destinies, and there's a lot of danger at stake because of the society that she lives in if it turns out that these creatures are real and that she's connected to them. And she's really just tired of people telling her what to do. So she's a
Come
very
on.
reluctant hero in this, and so we get to see her kind of grow and change and figure
Yeah.
out where she's headed. And yeah, I guess that's it.
So in any of that description, were we describing you at all?
um I started off the character very different from myself, and then she sort of morphed into this hybrid. I
Okay.
originally designed her after a good friend of mine, and
Ah.
then sort of had to reach this middle ground.
That's awesome. I love it. I love how authors, as we're writing, we incorporate real people and real experiences, and then fictionalize them and just kind of roll them into our characters. And some of the characters are a blend of like 20 different people we know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's awesome. Okay, so how did publishing your first book change your writing? Have you seen a change in your writing, or maybe even a change in yourself?
It's probably more of a change in myself than in my writing, because before I signed my publishing contract, I really wasn't sure if any of it was going to be worth it. And one of my hang-ups that God's working on me in and that I'm trying to get over is feeling like things are a waste of time if they're not like immediately profitable.
Right.
So for me, even going through the process of writing a novel, not knowing if it was going to be published or what was going to happen with it was really difficult, because there were so many times where I could be like, oh my gosh, I need to be hanging out with my kids or my husband or doing my job. Like there's other things that I should be doing than writing this right now. But God just kept pulling me along with it until it was done. And once I signed the contract, I was like, okay, well, if I can publish one book, then I can publish more books. And so it was just kind of confirmation of God saying, no, I have a plan in this. I'm not just having you do something that's not going to pay off or that's, not
Yeah.
going to be worth anything. And, at the same time, I feel like even if it hadn't gotten published, what I've gotten out of it personally writing it was still valuable enough that, that would have been confirmation enough, but I just need to get out of my head more when it comes to what makes something valuable or what doesn't.
Yeah. That's so good, Michelle, because a lot of people struggle with that because as we're writing, we're battling this internal conflict of, is this worth it? And, am I missing out on other things that I should be doing instead of writing? But I feel this call to write. So there's this struggle, we're wrestling with each other like, no, God called me to write, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do and how to navigate that. So
Yeah.
that's so good. I love the way you're pointing that out because that's going to help a lot of people understand the wrestle is worth it, to
Yeah.
go for it.
I
And
hope so.
that's awesome. Um, okay, another question I got for you. Um, as you're writing and you're an aspiring writer and you're releasing stuff, we kind of learn things along the way. And I always like to pull from writers like what they've learned in their process to help other writers along the way. So what kind of traps or things that you encountered along the way that you can help another writer navigate?
Mhm. Well, definitely, as an editor especially, what's really come to light is that there are kind of two camps of people, and you really need to find yourself in the middle eventually.
Yeah.
But there's one group that really wants to rush and rush and rush and get their books out before they're ready, or before their skills are really honed to tell that story correctly or in the best way possible. And then there are those who are so afraid of either it not being perfect or of what other people will think if they do put it out there in the world, that they never really get anything done. They never get anything out there, they never publish, and a lot of people miss out on what they need to see. So for me, I was definitely more of the latter, of feeling like it wasn't going to be good enough, but then I had plenty of people tell me, well, it's not ready yet. so
Yeah.
so definitely, finding that balance of, excellence, of value for excellence,
Yeah.
but not getting hung up in perfectionism that it paralyzes you and stops you from moving forward.
That is brilliant. Yeah, I think that's a huge difference between excellence and perfection. People get hung up on those two. And yeah, we want excellence, but don't get caught in the trap of perfection, because that will just mess with you. That is
Mm-hmm.
amazing. That's a good word. I love it. As you guys are listening right now, you want to get her book. It's available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Is it in all those types of places, right?
Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. The Kindle is available. I know there are other ebook formats, but I'm not exactly sure where they're being sold.
Okay.
So
Yeah, just search around. You'll find them. Just look for Darcara in your favorite, ebook store that you shop at. Everybody, 70% of buyers go to Amazon, so of course it's
right.
there. And the other one, Barnes and Noble as well. So get your copy. I just got my hardback. Beautiful. I love it. Can't wait to display it on the back here in my bookshelf.
The printer for the hardcover is being switched. So right now, if you want a hardcover, you have to contact me directly because I'm the only one who has any of them.
Okay.
But hopefully soon that link will be up on Amazon as well once we get that switch taken care of.
And how can they contact you for that?
Best way would be either Facebook, Instagram, or directly from my website. So it's kmichellemoseley.com, or it's Instagram, kmichellemoseley, Facebook, kmichellemoseley. I'm not too difficult to find if you spell my name correctly. It's ELE in both of them.
Yeah. It's one L for Michelle, not
Yep.
the typical.
And two E's in Moseley.
Yes.
So
good. I love it.
if you
Yeah,
get
let's
the
get
ELE, you can spell my name.
get that clarified, of course. All right. So every author's got a struggle. What is your author kryptonite? What is your writing kryptonite?
Definitely comparison.
Ah,
It is really, really tough to, especially, it wasn't so much a problem before I had to start marketing. And so I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook,
yeah.
I'm, seeing what other authors are doing and how they're succeeding and how many followers they're getting, how many likes they're getting, how many reviews they have on Amazon. And it's so hard for me to, no matter how high up you get, no matter how successful you are, there will always be someone who's more successful.
Of course.
And so letting yourself get hung up on that, you'll never be satisfied with your career and you'll never be happy with what you've done.
Yeah.
And for your writing too, everyone has a unique style, but if you're comparing what you've written to what someone else has written, or what people are saying about your book to what people are saying about other people's books, I mean, I've been very comforted by some of the negative reviews on my favorite books in the world, and I haven't received any negative reviews.
Yeah.
Which is great, but then it's also like, well, okay, they're positive reviews, but there aren't that many of them. It's so easy to compare, and it's never a fair comparison. Everyone is different enough. Every book is different enough that doing that doesn't make any sense. But that's definitely the biggest discourager for me.
Yeah.
In just kind of feeling good about my writing. There's not a whole lot that stops me anymore, but definitely the way I feel about it changes. But then there's also, with procrastination, I've heard recently that procrastination is being arrogant enough to believe that you deserve another, like, that you deserve for God to give you a chance to do something tomorrow that you could have done today or something like that. I'm like, oh, that hurts.
Wow. Yeah.
I do that pretty often. It's like, I don't feel like writing today, so I'm not going to. And then the next day, one of my kids gets sick or something else happens. It's like, oh, really should have written yesterday.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's comparison is the killer, guys. That is such a kryptonite for so many of us.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to celebrate every victory we get. If we stay as authors, as writers, in a victory mentality, in a spot of celebratory or celebration of everything, then every review you get, you're looking at as celebration instead of, oh, I only have so many, instead of the glass half empty, half full.
Mm-hmm.
We stay in that it's always full.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, and in Darkara, what was your hardest scene to write? What was the hardest part of the book to write for you?
Definitely the beginning, because especially when you're doing something speculative fiction where you're doing sci-fi or fantasy or something that requires world building, you
Yes,
have a lot of information to pack into a really short amount of time, so that you're not just, the first 3 chapters of your book is like the world history of this new planet you've created.
right.
So for me, I think, gosh, the revisions, I still have stacks of old drafts of just those first 3 chapters, because they're like nuggets and scenes in those I can't bear to part with. I can't shred them
Yeah,
because they don't, I updated on my computer. I don't have the files anymore. Like, I can't get rid of those scenes, but they had to be chopped because they didn't belong there.
yeah.
So maybe I'll do like some deleted scene thing for my email followers at some point. But yeah, I definitely, the beginning is really tough. And then also for me, the climaxes are always pretty difficult because there's usually some kind of battle element. And I am so much more invested in like the emotional, like, growth and process of my characters, that having, like those necessary action sequences that are supposed to be the most exciting, those bore me to tears. So I tend to rush through those. And then I have, beta readers coming back saying, this happened really quickly and really easy. I'm like, okay, fine. I'll add in, like so many scenes, or I'll make this more descriptive. I'll do this, and I'll, do what you're supposed to do with an action sequence, but it's exhausting.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, he swung and he killed him, and then they move on.
Yeah, it was over.
It's over.
Let's get back to how they feel.
Yes, yes. But feelings are so important too. I mean, it is a hard dance to do, because I'll find, even in my fantasy books, Michelle, I like the battle scenes, but at the same time, I get bored with them because we already know who's going to win. So I'm looking
Yeah.
for the emotions with it. I'm looking for the feelings. I'm looking for the struggles of, like, maybe someone else is going to be hurt, and they're like, how do I protect that person? So there's all these this dance, and I love getting back to the emotional, the humanity part of it as quickly as possible. And you're brilliant. You are an amazing writer. Everybody, you are guaranteed to love Darkara. And she's already got, several, almost a dozen 5-star reviews on her book. So those reviews are going to keep coming as more readers come in and join you. And everybody, I just love her writing. Her writing's amazing. And I see a lot of writers out there, and I get a lot of content back, and I can tell you, guaranteed, that she is a brilliant storyteller, spot on descriptions, and she's got such a great flow and dance, the way she weaves her story together. So get her book, Darcara. Next tough question for you, Michele. I don't know if you can handle this one. Okay. What does success, literary success, look like to you? I love to ask this question for authors and just even writers in general that are moving in this career path.
Hmm. Well, for me, I feel like I've already succeeded in a big way, because just finishing a book is a success, getting a book published is a huge success. And what's always been most important for me is for someone to tell me that my book mattered to them, that it made a difference for them, that they enjoyed it, that they learned something. And I've gotten a lot of comments to that degree recently. So to me, it's like, well, it was worth it, so I succeeded, right?
Yes.
And I mean, yeah, it'd be great to pay the bills with my books. I'm hoping to one day do that.
Yeah.
But for now, I'm trying really hard to focus just on the victories that I've had, because it's very easy for me to be like, okay, well, that's great, but this is missing, or what's next? And it's very easy for me to fall into that trap of just kind of like brushing off the good things and focusing on what's missing.
Yeah.
So just really trying to look at what success means to God, which is really that I was obedient and I did what I needed to do, and he's
Yeah.
using it for something. So trying less to focus on my definition of success and more on God's.
That is so good, Michele. I love hearing that. I love hearing everyone's take on literary success and what does that mean to us, because was it different before? Did it change? Did you see it change in your life, like before you
Um,
published?
I don't know. I guess I wanted it to be worth it. That was like my biggest fear in writing it was, is this going to be worth it, or was this just a waste of time?
Right.
And I think I was kind of always like, okay, but if one person reads it and likes it,
Yes.
then it's worth it. So I don't know if it necessarily changed. It's probably been pretty consistent. I need to focus so much on maintaining the proper perspective, because it can shift as soon as I see, someone else's Instagram post, something else that
Yeah.
would make me question whether or not if I can consider myself successful.
Yeah.
So it's not that so much change, it's that I'm always having to bring it back to center.
Yeah. And it's those reviews that I find that are timely. Sometimes you're battling something and you get a
Mhm.
review and you're like, oh, that was so worth it. When you get
Yeah,
that,
someone you've never met,
yes,
text your husband and says, "Oh,
exactly.
I picked up your wife's book and I love it."
Yes,
That's the kind of stuff where I'm like, "Okay, well that's validating."
yes. And they're
Yeah.
and they're coming for you. So those timely reviews or an email from somebody out of the blue, or somebody
Mhm.
you never even that's never even commented on your Facebook posts, and you bump into them, and what I call them, a Facebook stalker. They know everything
Right.
about you. They don't comment, they don't like, but they know everything. You're like, oh, you're one of them. And they say how
Lurkers.
yeah, enjoyed
We
your
love
book.
you, lurkers, because
Yes,
you're the people who tell your friends about our books.
that's right.
So it's okay to be a lurker.
It is.
Just talk about stuff in person,
I
please.
love it. Exactly. And it's okay. But those are the timely things you're going to get. You just bump into somebody on, walking down the street, or eventually we can eat in restaurants.
Hmm.
Okay. I want to know personally, what are you working on now? Because you are such a good storyteller. I'm hungry for the next story.
Yeah. I have several works in progress. So I'm working on finding a publisher for my second book, which Jill just finished, and she really
Uh,
liked it. So that was very
she was
encouraging.
raving about this book. So good.
So I'm hoping one of my friends who owns a small press, they're opening backup submissions in January. So I'm going to try there. I have a couple other people sort of on my list. For this one, I've just been really waiting for God to open doors and show me where to kind of press into, because for the first book, I spent so many times writing query letters and, really nose to the grindstone trying to get it done. And
Yeah.
none of that worked out for me because God had a plan. And if
Yeah.
I just listened to the plan, could have saved myself a lot of like anxiety and toil. So this time I'm really trying to be like, okay, is this somewhere I should step forward in? And it took me a little over a year from finishing Darcara to finding a publisher, so it's not bothering me that it's taking time.
Yeah.
because I know that God's leading me to the right place. So there's that. And then I just finished a couple weeks ago, I finished my first draft of a third book that's kind of a new adult. So it's a little bit, it's like between general audience and young adult. So it's sort of like that college age.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a paranormal, historical, inspired by Jack the Ripper kind of thing.
Wow.
So
Come
I'm excited
on.
about that one.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then I have a fourth book that I've been kind of toying with this idea for a couple years, just haven't really figured out the plot yet. But that's really been knocking hard at the door recently, wanting me to write it. So once I'm in between drafts right now, first and second for that third book. So once I'm done with the second draft of the third book, then I'll let the fourth one have some time. So it's very, very anxious to get going.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun. That's fun when you get to those, the next story that, you've been wanting to get to, and it's exciting. Okay. And I love to ask this to authors as well. What is one thing that you wish you knew, before when you were starting your whole writing process? What was that one thing you wish you knew and you want to pass on to others?
Um, Definitely for the writing process, but kind of in everything else right now. God's just been reminding me of this so strongly, that He is so unimpressed, uninterested in our performance.
Yeah.
He really isn't. He's not up there, giving out stories, okay, you need to write this and it needs to look like this and it's going to do this. He's so more interested with who we are and who He created us to be and what we can come up with and what we can do creatively.
So
And I
good.
keep thinking back to my sons who, I don't tell them what to draw. I don't tell them,
Yeah.
what to make out of blocks. I want to see what they do. And creatively, but in so many other things, that's what God wants from us. He wants to see what we can do, and He wants to be there with us. He wants us to show Him. He wants us to invite Him into that process. But He's not interested in us, doing something that seems like it would please Him,
Yeah.
and that was kind of what stopped me from writing for a long time, and then what I sort of had to continue walking out when writing Darkara, because it just kept coming up again, like, oh, but is this going to be good enough? Is this going to be, gospel centric enough? And God was like, oh my gosh, write the book, okay?
Yes. Oh, that's so good, Michelle. That is so powerful, because we can see with our own children, like, exactly. We don't tell them, oh, you need to draw, a house and on a hill and a sun, and explain the gospel to me in your drawing.
Mhm.
We don't force that upon them. We just say, you're creative, explore, do what's on your heart, what's
Mhm.
driving you. So that is brilliant. I love the simplicity that God shows us even through our own children. He's like, I'm not here to
Right.
dictate what you're supposed to write. Sometimes He
Mhm.
will give us a direction, a really strong direction,
Mhm.
because He has a plan. But other times He's just like, hey, I love you, and it's all about you,
Yeah.
and I want you
And
to
He
write.
wants to see what we'll do with the direction He gives
Yeah,
us.
yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. It's so good. That is excellent, excellent for everyone hearing this, to tap into that. Okay, and my final question, Michelle, I love to ask all these questions. You've seen that. Is why do you write? What is it that draws you to write? Why? What is your why?
I really like to. It's really
Fun and
fun.
fun.
It feels good to get these stories and to put them down and to get excited about them and to, create people and worlds and things that are happening. It's really fun. But now, I have this amazing confirmation that it is what I was created for,
Yeah,
and that God is using it for something. So even if I get to a moment where it doesn't feel particularly fun, or I don't want to write that day, or that scene isn't working out the way I want it to, I can still persevere and keep going and press into it, because I know that there's a purpose for it.
yeah. Oh, so good. I am gonna share my screen here. And I just want everyone to go out and get this book. This is Michelle's first book, everybody. It just came out. It's like a month old now, and it's a newborn. And so I encourage everyone to go out, get her book. It's amazing, and I can't speak more highly enough about it. And your brilliant ability to storytell, Michele, is just fantastic. And it's worthy to be on everybody's shelves out there, especially if you love epic fantasy, young adult. And if you don't, and you've never explored epic fantasy, this is a great place, a great book to jump in, and really get the emotional, the humanity of the characters. And like Michele says, she was really going after, let's get to how they feel and the emotions, and you'll fall in love with these characters that she's brilliantly put together. And then here's me picking up my book the other day with Michele. Look at that happy face. Michelle's like, proud. And so Michele, let us know where people can get your book again, and yeah, just give us all your how to contact you, and go from there.
Well, probably the easiest place that I can direct you to, because every single link you could possibly want is on this website. It's kmichelemoseley.com, KMICHELEMOSELEY.com. And you can go to the books tab. That's right up there on top, and that will show you a link to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Goodreads, and my social media links are on there. I believe they're at the bottom. If you scroll down to the footer, all my social media links are there. So whatever your preferred social media is, you can follow me there. And then, I have my blog. I have a contact page. So just if you need anything from me, it's kmichelemoseley.com.
That's awesome. That is fantastic. Thank you so much, Michele. We love having you here at KWA. You've been with KWA for how long now?
2 years.
2 years at KWA. Michele Moseley is also one of our vision leads for KWA. She helps with the KWA juniors. Once we start meeting together again in person, we'll help build the junior edition from the 8 to 15-year-olds. And so her and Rhonda Barber are leading that. And so it's such an honor to have you with us and running with KWA and being a part of this ministry that God's just fully breathed on. And we're very proud of you, Michele. Good job with Darcara. And we're excited for the future and what God's going to bring out of you even more. Any final thoughts?
Buy my book, please.
Yes. Done and done.
Christmas is coming up. It makes a great gift.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll highlight your book even more at the Christmas party coming up December 5th.
Awesome.
So, all right, everybody, that concludes our author spotlight with Michele Moseley, her first published book, Darcara. And we love you guys, and love you, Michele. Thank you.
Thanks, Brae.